Alright, so once again, I was half right, and I still haven't learned to stop picking against the Chiefs in the playoffs. So far, they're the only team to escape from their past, and because of them, I have 2 losses when picking these matchups. They've beaten 2 teams that they lost to in the past, which means that they'll probably lose in the Super Bowl because they've probably cursed themselves by angering the football gods. Like I said, I'm 4-2 in my picks, so that means no matter who I pick in the Super Bowl, I'll finish above 500. We'll talk about the Super Bowl a little bit later. For now, I'm going to focus on the conference championship games. Starting with the Chiefs and Ravens, this game felt like the Ravens couldn't get out of their own way. A lot is going to be said of Lamar Jackson's play, and rightfully so, but the fumble by Zay Flowers is one of the most disheartening things to happen to a team trying to win a game. The Ravens never got into a groove after that. On top of that, there was a PI that wasn't called in the back of the end zone. You can make the argument that the ball was uncatchable, but if that's the case, then defensive coordinators should do this more often. Put a defender in front and a defender in back. Have the guy in the back straight up tackle the receiver. Simple enough. As much as the ref should have made this call, Lamar had no business throwing into triple coverage. It seemed like all night he was pretty uncomfortable. For the Chiefs, it's more of the same. More Mahomes, more Kelsey, and more winning in the playoffs. Even though they looked like anything but contenders all season long, they still managed to find a way to beat teams in the playoffs. The Chiefs defense held the Ravens to only 10 points, and if you can do that in today's league, you give yourself a great chance to win. I was wrong to pick against them, but I'm used to being wrong at this point.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
Sometimes.
On the NFC side of things, we had an historic collapse. The only difference between this and the Falcons is that that one happened in the Super Bowl and this one is in the NFC Championship game. I'm not going to say anything different than what everybody else has already been saying about this game.
But what was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I just explained the reason.
What was the reason?
Take the points, kick the field goal, run the ball. It seems so easy, but for whatever reason, teams just seem to panic when they see their lead slip away. This wouldn't be so bad if the Lions had just gotten curb stomped or if they tried to mount their own comeback themselves that just fell short. For the Lions fans, though, it's gotta be weird, right? I mean, this coach has gotten you the farthest that you've been in years. And after years of misery, once he got to that point, things regress to the mean. It's really like getting your dream car and finding out that there's a little bit of a rattle in the engine. You take it to the mechanic and they can't really tell you what's wrong. You don't just give up on it, right? But what if something really is wrong? Do you take it apart? Do you leave it and hope that it's just a pebble rattling around in there? I think the obvious decision is to run it back, but that doesn't make the loss sting any less. At the end of the day, Dan Campbell has done an amazing job with the Lions and they should be thankful to get this far. But that doesn't make the loss sting any less. The Niners, on the other hand, have been the class of the league. The only problem is that they have not done it on the biggest stage since the 90s. Always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. We all know that the Niners are a good team, but at this point, the Brock Purdy hate needs to stop. If he was anyone else, we would have crowned him a long time ago. I don't care if he lays an absolute egg in the Super Bowl. He has been a huge reason of why they've gotten this far. He led drives in the last games that led to wins that historic quarterbacks would have on their resume. And it also helps when the doinks go in your favor.
Oh my goodness. The Bears season's going to end on a double doink.
To me, he's the best quarterback the Niners have had in this modern era of Super Bowl appearances. He gives them the best chance to win, in my opinion. In these playoffs, the only quarterback I would probably want ahead of him is the one that he's facing on Super Bowl Sunday. Speaking of which, I haven't done my jinxing yet. It's time for me to be wrong again and jinx your favorite team. I'm going to make my predictions for the big game. Now, I'm not going to do a whole video about it because similar to the conference championships, I'm just picking based on what happened in the past. That means that the Chiefs win again and go back to back for the first time in 20 years. Even though I finally learned my lesson and I'm picking the Chiefs this time, I don't think the Niners go to 3 straight Super Bowls and come up empty. I think they finally get over the hump and Purdy becomes just the 3rd quarterback to beat Mahomes in the playoffs. That being said, my pick is ultimately the Chiefs, with the same score that they had in their last matchup, 31-20. All in all, I'm really just hoping for a competitive game. I don't want to blow out one way or another. I really want triple overtime, down to the wire, last touchdown, last field goal type deals. Last year's Super Bowl was amazing between the Chiefs and Eagles, and it came down to a last second field goal. That pass interference call, which was debatable, really sucked the wind out of the sails from an otherwise amazing game. So I'm hoping for the same this year. But how wrong am I? Let me know your picks past and future, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.